Hello, everyone out there in YouTube and podcast land. Hope you're all doing wonderfully out there. And I'll introduce my good friend and co-host Dave. How are you going?
Very well. How about you?
Good, thanks. I've had a pretty good day. I went and checked out Range Brewing today here at Abbott
Oh
in
yeah.
Melbourne. Their new tap room. It was good. That's my
How
summary.
about this? How about introduce our guest? I don't want to go
That's
back to range and hear a bit about it.
that's what I was going to do. Casey Grieve from Sobremesa.
Yeah, that's correct.
I don't think it's got a question mark at the end, does it?
How you doing?
I'm not very confident with my Spanish. Oh, good, thanks, Casey. How are you going?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Thanks for getting us on the show.
I'm really excited for this chat. But before we dive in, yeah, Range in Melbourne. So the new kind of tap room offshoot from the Queensland Brewery. Really cool, really
Nice.
clean, kind of nice vibe in the tap room there. I didn't try any of the beers; they were closed. I was just there for a chat, but yeah, really keen to get back and try some of the beer.
What's their setup going to be like? Are they just going to be brewing the same core range plus a few taproom specials? Or
They've never had a core range.
right,
Famously, never had a core range.
classic.
They always cause they're going to keep just doing random hazies. I think they want to get some like one or two one-offs for the tap room, but
Right. What I was sort of getting at, are they going to brew beers like totally independent of the Brisbane brewery, or are they going to do them
no. So there's no brewery at this one.
right?
It's just
Okay,
just taps.
got it.
They kind of are thinking about maybe one day changing that, but for now it's just taps.
Fair enough.
But yeah, really cool, and just right by Bodrigi there, nearby Fixation and stomping around, and
Just another addition to that little
Yeah,
cluster.
yeah, it's pretty
little,
pretty
Yeah.
good little spot for a beer.
Cool.
But we're here to talk about Casey, your new, I guess, recently launched blendery and fermentary.
yeah, we are.
Oh, actually, Dave, before we do, anything you've been up to exciting?
No,
Okay,
not at all. No, let's go.
all right. Uh, so Casey, yeah, I don't know anything about this project other than what we talked about just before we started. Then, so can you give us maybe a little bit of background on what this is, and then we'll talk about how you got to do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So this is, yeah, our little project, Sobremesa, fermentary and blendery. It's just me and my fiance Hannah. Um, I've always wanted to do my own thing. Always, even throughout brewing other people's beers and winemaking, I've always wanted to launch our own little project. And yeah, so this gives us the space to explore farmhouse ales, local ingredients, kind of rustic traditions. Most of it goes through barrel fermentation or at least sees barrel aging. Yeah, some of it's mixed fermentation. A lot of it gets brettanomyces at one stage or the other. But yeah, we launched in May. That was when we first put our brew down. And yeah, this is our first release called Our Daily Brett, which is yeah, a barrel fermented saison that's conditioned with brettanomyces.
I really like the label art. I've got a bottle here that I'm going to try and hold up to the camera. I don't think I'm doing such a bad job of this.
There you go. All right.
Kind of
Pull back a
illustrate.
little bit. Pull back a tad. There you go. That's a bit better. Yeah, nice.
Thanks for the direction there, Dave. Kind of illustrative, and your logo as well was kind of illustrative as well. Can you? Is that how it's going to look from here on out, and is that kind of the
Yeah,
vibe?
yeah, it is. Yeah, kind of really minimalistic, black and white. Yeah, we're going to have each of our beers that we will recreate is going to have a fine line drawing like that. So yeah, this is blend one, and yeah, I think this is definitely how our branding, yeah, will continue. Yeah, we're going for that minimalist, yeah, black and white. Um, yeah,
And the first release that both of us are drinking now, I'm really enjoying it. The nose is really good. Like
thank
it,
you.
it smells like there's almost much older than May components in there. But is this all from that first brew?
Yeah, yeah, this is all from the first brew. Yeah, which went down, yeah, on May the 23rd, and we barrel fermented. Which for a reason I wanted to keep it on the lees, to go through primary fermentation and rest on the yeast for 4 months, because I really like the way that Chardonnay can show those textural components from going through barrel fermentation. So we were trying to recreate a little bit of that.
So what's your background? You've mentioned winemaking and brewing. Take us back to, I guess, Casey before Sobremesa and what you were doing and how you got here.
Yeah, so I've always grown up around wine and grapes. My dad's a viticulturalist, so we spent every school holidays working on the vineyard. I hated it back then, to be honest. Wire lifting and bending over and bud rubbing and doing hard manual labor. So at that stage, I kind of never really thought that I would be in the wine or the beer industry.
Whereabouts was that?
That was back in New Zealand in Blenheim, like top of the South Island, Marlborough, where all the Sauvignon Blancs from.
Regular listeners or listeners with a good memory would know I've talked about Blenheim or Marlborough in general as a place I've played rugby in very, very cold times and being very undersized, and just had so many unpleasant memories of that place.
Yeah, I've got similar memories. I'm not the largest bloke either, so hitting 16 and everyone else hitting puberty far earlier than I was challenging, to say the least.
Yeah. But then Blenheim's also the home of AoaT, right?
Yeah, it is.
Not anymore though.
No.
Renaissance still though.
Spiritual home. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, from winemaking in Blenheim, which, looking at your age, I'm going to guess that was probably when Marlborough was taking off as a wine region.
Yeah. So yeah, I spent like I was saying, spent the holidays on the vineyard. Never really thought I would get into that, and then I did a harvest back in 2013. Just working on the winery, trying to save some money to go to Thailand, and then absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the process and fell in love with the beauty of the winemaking part of it, as opposed to lifting wires and leaf plucking. And so I spent the next 4 years kind of hopping around, going to Germany and the States and Portugal to do harvest. That was the kind of the beauty of trying to get 2 summers in 1 year. You could jump ship and get more experience. So I did that, and then I ended up studying enology in AoaT in Hawke's Bay before moving over to Melbourne and starting a job at Bad Shepherd, which I started there as the assistant brewer and working in the bar and kind of like a hybrid shift, and then slowly started making my way up and brewing there. And ended up brewing there for a couple of years with Derek and the crew there.
So do you homebrew as well as winemaking at that point?
I had been homebrewing a little bit. I haven't been homebrewing for 10 years or anything, but once I started getting the kind of itch for beer, and I definitely started homebrewing while we were here in Melbourne and while I was working at Bad Shepherd. And then worked there for a couple of years, and then in December, like, when was that? That was 2018. Hannah and I moved to Canada, and I guess that's where I got a lot of my experience brewing these kind of beers. Worked at a small little mixed fermentation brewery there called Bar Hop, which was like a 200 litre system. So it was like a glorified homebrew setup, and we had 20 barrels, and we made saison and a lot of barrel aging and fruit re-fermentation. And then, December just gone, Hannah and I moved back, and the plan was to start this up. And we've been spending this COVID just planning and trying to get things together. And then, here we are with the first release.
How did you go, the gap between chasing vintages around the world to arriving in Cheltenham to brew some beer? How did that shift happen?
That was, so I missed the experimentation, hence why I wanted to shift to brew and get the opportunity to brew more than once a year.
Right.
And the wineries that I was working at were pretty commercial, so I never really got to experiment too much. You know, it was all kind of classic stainless steel Chardonnay and Pinot Gris and Pinot Noir. So I decided to look for a brewing job and just started emailing everyone I could. And then Bad Shepherd ended up having an opportunity there for an assistant brewer and kind of a hybrid bar role to then that's how I started commercially brewing.
Why the jump to beer?
Yeah, like I was saying, I just needed more experimentation. I'd always loved beer as well, and I thought, given I had a lot of the science background to begin with through winemaking, I thought it would be a pretty straightforward transition. I mean, the production is pretty different, but a lot of the science is similar. And always loved beer. So I thought I'd give it a go, and here we are.
Did you have that thought in mind while you were making wine? Were you thinking like, gee, if I could like create something new every couple of weeks or whatever, rather than just being dictated to by the season? Is that what sort of like planted the seed in your mind?
100%.
Yeah, right.
That was definitely it, because I've always loved fermentation. I think fermentation is the whole reason why I'm in winemaking or brewing. I think that side of it and microbes fascinate me far more than the production process. It was the want and need to experiment and create different products in 3 weeks, as opposed to 1 year, like you say, dictated by the season and by the winemaker.
So then you've gone and done a beer that's taken May to 8 months.
Yeah. I guess we've kind of gone full circle there, but it is our experiment, and it's definitely different to what I was doing at Bad Shepherd. But
and drinking this, it's brettanomyces is kind of in the name, and it's certainly a big character in the beer, which is a huge no-no for winemaking. It's kind of not a huge no-no, but it's certainly a controversial subject. And even in the beers at Bad Shepherd, brettanomyces I don't think features in any at all that I can remember. Why that kind of focus with your first release?
Because these are the styles of beer that I love to drink, and like I was touching on before, fermentation just fascinates me, and microbes. So hence why we were going with a barrel fermented saison with brettanomyces, because these are the beers that I've always wanted to make but have never had the opportunity to, apart from being in Canada.
I'm getting a coconut kind of note right into the mid palate on this one. Yeah. In a really good way, and it might not be. I guess coconut is the closest thing. I have had a reasonably spicy dinner and a lot of garlic in there, but so it's kind of right in the middle there. It's quite nice.
Yeah, I can see that now that I've just had a sip as well.
Do you think that's coming from brettanomyces?
Yeah, it could be, or from the saison, yeast that we used. But yeah, Brett can definitely create some interesting aromas and flavors from something that wasn't there before.
So what is this beer? What's the makeup of it? And I guess why did it take this long to get out?
Most of the malt is from House of Malt in Ballarat. So one of the big things that we wanted to focus on was using local ingredients and Victorian ingredients as much as we can. I mean, the hops are Sars and Tetnang, because it's pretty hard to get noble hops in Australia at the moment. But all the malt is Australian. Yeah, it's Pilsner, wheat, flaked wheat, spelt, and rye. Yeah, and then the hops were Tetnang and Sars and a little bit of Magnum for bittering. It took this long because that's beer and that's barrel, and we did have a couple of problems early on, and with temperature, like ambient temperature in the warehouse. The warehouse wasn't temperature controlled, so I wouldn't say problem, but things took a little bit longer than we expected. So we just had to ride it out. I mean, it took about 2 months to kind of get a stable gravity, and then it took another 2 months until we were happy with the complexity and the flavor and the aroma. And we didn't start this blendery for timelines. You know, the whole reason for our own project was so that we could pump out what we want when we want, and when the beer dictates. You know, the beer dictates when it's ready. And then bottle conditioning. Honestly, I thought it was going to take 4 weeks as well. Again, but that's the nature of these beers. You can't really predict how they're going to operate in certain environments. So we had to wait it out, and nervously wait it out. With being our first release.
Was there temptation along the way, or was there fear along the way that it was never gonna?
There was, yeah. I've got to be honest, there was, and I tried a bottle from every single stack of our little crate, which probably hurt our revenue, but I had to be sure that it was ready and it was right. And but yeah, I guess that comes with time and experience. So next time I won't be so concerned.
Are you so thinking of, I guess, future releases? Are you going to be doing? Is this beer going to be one that you always do, or it's going to change kind of every release?
Yeah. So this beer, for now, this will be the only beer that we recreate. So this is blend 1, and then we're scheduled to do blend 2 in the next couple of weeks, and then the other beers will be what's in season with fruit and what's local. And we do have another couple of beers ready actually at the moment. We've done like a hoppy farmhouse ale, we're calling it. So I really like the yeast Kvike, and the kind of ester and aroma profile it can create from fermenting far hotter than any other yeast. So some of our barrel makeup, is Kvike, and that's a lightly dry hopped kind of finished with Brett again as well, and Brett was in the barrel. But that's kind of our version, Sobremesa's version of a pale ale, I guess.
I really like a hoppy farmhouse style. I think it's something that it's always kind of a little bit, wow, there's a lot going on here, but then I can always drink a lot of it.
Yeah.
Thinking of Duranka XX and Van Diemen did early and late the canned releases, and they were really lovely. So I completely forgot what I was going to ask, and I was just thinking about drinking hoppy farmhouse beer in the sun. I'm just going to think about that now.
Let's take 5 minutes. Have a little ponder about that, eh?
Summertime's just around the corner.
It is. It's heating up. The sun's coming out. Not today, but it's nice to see the sun out, and it's definitely good weather for these styles of beer.
So how have you gone getting these beers into places? Are you kind of doing sales yourself?
Yep. Yeah, so Han and I are doing sales. So yeah, we've just been driving around, and I had a few networks from being in the industry previously. So yeah, we've been driving around, giving out samples, kind of telling our grassroots story in person, and we've been able to get it into a few bottle shops so far, which we're really thrilled about.
Is it nerve-wracking going in and saying, "Here's my beer, please buy some"?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's kind of weird, You spend that long babying something and waiting for it to be ready, and then going to sell it is like a whole nother aspect of it. But I found it much easier, being confident in the product and waiting that long until it was ready. So yeah, but it has been challenging. I've definitely had to talk more than I usually do.
Now the name that I made a bold attempt at saying at the start, Where does it come from? What's the word? What does it mean?
Yeah, so it's a Spanish term, and it kind of comes from Hannah and I's love for the way the Spanish and kind of Europeans in general treat food and wine. I feel like it's a little bit different to Western society. And the name we took a kind of a cultural definition. So it's the Sobremesa is the time spent around the table after lunch or dinner, where you digest and you talk and you savor the food and the drink and the friendship. So it's kind of like that time period after you've had drinks or dinner where you just keep chatting and you enjoy the fact that you're together, and then there's a couple of definitions, like the literal meaning is over the table or dessert, depending on where you are. But our kind of spin on it was that, and we kind of hope that these beers can evoke conversation in the same kind of way.
What's the Spanish link there? Is it just a love for Spain?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and kind of we did a bit of traveling through Argentina and Mexico just before coming over here, and I guess it's just paying homage to the way that they operate, and I'm not Spanish by any means. I can speak a little bit, but yeah, that was we really liked the meaning when we were over there, and the fact that waiters the waiters aren't allowed to come over to your table and ask you for your bill or clear your dishes without you kind of approaching them, because they don't want to interrupt the sobremesa. It's kind of like a sacred thing. So that would be where the name came from.
Do you plan to use winemaking as there's kind of obviously wine grape hybrid beers out there. I just went to the Cantillon event, which was all around wine and beer kind of intermingling. Is that something you'd want to do?
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely the angle that we want to go down, and we definitely want to make wine. Excuse me. Once we have a license to do so in our own kind of place, if everything goes well. But yeah, that was why we decided to primary ferment this and age it on the lees for 4 months in the barrel, was to try and bring that kind of winemaking component from when I was making Chardonnay a few years ago. But yeah, that'll definitely be a focus later on.
So when we're drinking this, the on the lees aspect, what are you sort of aiming for to come across in the palate from that?
So we definitely want like a yeasty component that like you can experience through like champagne, that kind of the breadiness. And also I feel that it picks up a textural component. That beer is completely dry. It finished at 1.0000, but I definitely think it's got a pretty good body on it. And I feel like, apart from the unmalted barley that we use in the mash, I think some of that comes from aging on a yeast for 4 months.
Yeah, if I'm to sort of talk through my experience drinking it, it's probably a touch warm. It didn't have as long as in the fridge as I would have liked, but there is a kind of a palate weight in there, and a nice kind of really nice carbonation that's kind of, you can kind of see sticking around as I drink it. So it's kind of, yeah, there's a nice sort of textural experience, even with that super dryness. Is that, yeah. Dave? Is that something you're finding?
Absolutely. I had mine in the fridge for quite a while, so I didn't have the warmth issue, but it's definitely got that level of palate weight. I was surprised to hear it was 1.0000. It finishes real dry, but yeah, it's definitely got some body to it. It's spritzy and great Brett character. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, thank you.
I find kind of Brett heavy beers quite confronting these days as well. The Mayday series from Bridge Road, I love Bridge Road, and I love what they're doing with that series, but a lot of those just kind of get too heavy on my palate with that intense Brett. And my first kind of taste of this, I thought that might have been the case with this, but I think that palate weight kind of helps mellow it out a lot for me as well, which is, it's lovely.
Yeah.
The other yeast does too, I think. Yeah, rather than like 100% brettanomyces ferment. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So what are the other yeasts in there? You said it was 4 other strains or something. Did I read that?
Yeah, so we've got this. This was a blend of 2 barrels. One of the barrels had 5. So we use all commercial yeast strains. I mean, further down the track, we definitely want to look at maybe having a little coolship or isolating. But for now, that's something that we're not really focusing on. Yeah, so we've just grown up homebrew pitchers. So we use 566, which is a Belgian saison strain that went in one of the barrels, and then the other barrel had a yeast bay blend, like a saison blend, isolated from Brussels, and then the barrel number 2, which is the majority of the blend, went through primary fermentation with Brett Brux, and then barrel number 3, we pitched Brett Lambicus in about 3 weeks after primary to try and get we're just trying to test what we like, if we prefer the Brett character and primary fermentation or co-fermentation. And so this was a blend. Barrel 2 was kind of classic saison with a little bit of Brett, and then that was 69% of the blend. And then barrel number 3 was pretty Brett heavy from the Lambicus, and kind of like that cherry pie, and it was pretty gritty. So I feel like that brings a lot of the barnyardy kind of horse blanket mustiness in the background, which is what we were going for in the initial stages.
So right now you're brewing elsewhere. You don't have your own setup. It's bleeding and fermenting. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, so that's correct. Yeah, so we're fortunately enough we're brewing at Bad Shepherd. We're using their brew house to brew all our wort, and still got a good relationship with Derek. So I'm able to come in and brew on a Sunday when they're not in operation, and bring all our own ingredients, and which is good so I don't have to learn another brew house straight off the bat, and I'm kind of comfortable with that one. And then we're leasing a small little corner, I would call it, in their existing packaging warehouse where all our barrels are. We've got about 12 barrels there, in mixed format, and a little gravity bottling machine, and a plastic IBC that we do some of our primary fermentation in.
So any concerns, because they're relatively clean as a brewery? Any concerns bringing Brett heavy things into the packaging area?
I'm cautious. I'm cautious, that's for sure. Everything's closed in that warehouse. Everything's either in keg or bottle, and everything post the heat exchanger, hot side is all our own equipment, gaskets, hoses. So there's kind of nothing that's deemed infected goes near their brewery. It either gets inoculated in the packaging warehouse, or we kind of deal with it over there. So we're pretty cautious, though. I definitely understand the risk.
I feel like these days, though, there is kind of people, I don't know, even 5, maybe 10 years ago, people were like terrified of it, even opening a bottle near, a clean kit. And these days, I feel like everyone's kind of worked out that it's probably going to be okay if your practices are okay.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's the wrong stigma about them, but I do understand that as a brewery that makes lager or pale ales predominantly, that you just it's probably easier to open the bottle outside than pump another variable into the mix.
There's enough yeast in the air already to bring another thing in.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about long term. You mentioned making wine. You've called this a blendery and fermentary, which opens it up to a lot of possibilities. Where do you see yourself in, say, 1 year to then 5, 10 years?
Yeah. So that was the reason why we called it blendery and fermentary, was so that we can make more than beer. I mean, I really like fermenting food at home as well. So, kimchi, kind of lacto carrots, and like you said, wine. Would love to make cider down the track. So one year from now, I mean, we'll see how things are going. But I hope that we're making continuous beer out of our small little space, and maybe by the end of next year, we can have at least a little tap room somewhere that we can house our barrels and our tanks. I mean, at this stage, I don't think we'll own a brewery, purely because of capital, and the nature. The nature of these beers. Our focus isn't so much on the brewing component. It's more post that. It's about fermentation, and I feel like we can make our recipe on an existing brew house as long as they're okay. And then 5 years, I hope that we have a tap room and we're making our own wine and we're making our own cider, and we can house people and pour our beer to our own consumers and convey our story. And I'd be super happy if that would happen in the next 5 years. And
have you got a like an area that you want to put down your stakes? And
yeah, I really like North Kit.
Sure.
And that kind of area. I mean, I understand.
Even further north would be good too.
Yeah. Over your way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dave. Just by Jamshed and Three Ravens and Moondog would be perfect for you, right?
I mean, really, it's a burgeoning little sector of excellent beverage consumption. So, I mean, you'd be silly not to.
Yeah. So somewhere over that side. I mean, I know the rent's pretty high over that side, but given our size, I'm sure we could fit into a little nook and cranny and kind of make it our own. But we're pretty open. I mean, it'll definitely be in Melbourne and somewhere not too far out. I think when Hannah and I, my partner, have talked about it, it's we can, like I said, given the size, we can kind of pay for somewhere with a little bit more foot traffic and going on, and try and get into that bar kind of area, as opposed to having to go full industrial with the need for a massive space.
Especially like if you look at that Northcote, Collingwood, sort of that sort of areas, the network of like businesses, they all talk about each other. So it's not only the foot traffic, it's also that network where people, if they're going somewhere around you, they'll hear about you too.
Yeah.
Is it kind of nice coming into the market now and looking at places, Wildflower, or places that don't have a brew house, but even ones that do, the Wildflower, Lasso Ren, Dollar Bill, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's probably somewhat easier to then come into the space now with the preconceptions. Do you feel that as someone coming into the market?
I do. Yeah, I think those players, Lasserine, Dollar Bill, Wildflower, Molly Rose, they've all kind of paved a way of what saison in Australia and farmhouse ale is, and kind of gained some form of trust with the Australian beer community. I feel before that it wasn't so common to drink a saison and drink these kind of beers, and so I do. I feel lucky that these great breweries have already started from what I believe is a mini revolution to bring these beers back.
Yeah, it's crazy thinking about it, and I will have to apologise to all the other breweries that I know and love that are doing similar beers. Blobfish last year was a real kind of awakening moment for me. Dave, did you go to Blobfish?
Make it, but like the buzz around it and the conversation and stuff, it really seemed like, the foundations of the super niche festival that's got real support. Yeah.
Did you go, Casey?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was interesting because it did feel like, oh wow, you can bring this, all these esoteric versions of beer. None of them, there was maybe one beer that you would call conventional, which was the blobfish lager they did for it, and everything else was, starting at a fairly basic clean saison right up to, 7-year-old wild ferment stuff, and drawing a crowd. It was, and that kind of gave me hope for people like yourself coming in and wanting to sort of be part of that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's amazing what Hop Nation and Site Fermentation Project did there, was because we were in Canada at the time, so unfortunately we weren't able to attend. But it's amazing to see the Australia's first sour festival, only, and well, not only sour, but those kind of beers, saison, farmhouse ale, because that definitely didn't exist before. And they're also making some amazing stuff and amazing wines through Sight Wine. But I think that was a bit of a milestone for the community. Like myself, who are coming into it. It was great to see that.
Are you also, one of them being a Kiwi winemaker and both of them making wine in New Zealand, are you kind of like, oh yeah, you could do this?
I can fit in, yeah. I can come and give it a solid crack.
I'm also now just kind of spending more time with this beer, getting a little bit of pineapple in there as well, which I think I get from Brett Owl in the past, which is real lovely.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we definitely get apricot, peach. I definitely get orange skin, and I think as it warms up, it definitely develops, and I feel kind of fades away from the mustiness, and you kind of get more of those stone fruit characters.
So your next releases, what do you have a time frame for them, or it's just when it happens?
Yeah, so we do have a couple of beers ready. We're doing a collab with Common Folk Coffee Company.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was the same base, the same barrel fermented Brett saison, but we aged it on freshly roasted whole Ugandan coffee beans. At the ratio, which is pretty interesting, at the ratio of like 20 grams per liter. We let that sit for about 72 hours, and we were trying to do something different. So I'll give them a little spiel, because I feel like they're doing some amazing things for fair trade. And so the Kookaburra is the coffee company that they fund through every cup of coffee bought at Common Folk. 20 cents of that goes to supporting farmers in Uganda and local farmers that they work with. So the coffee was called the unicorn because it had never existed before. Like Ugandan coffee was pretty straight up and down, and through this funding they were able to experiment, and so they do this crazy natural fermentation where each individual coffee bean, it's like carbonic maceration of a grape. Each individual coffee bean goes through its individual fermentation within the cherry for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they naturally dry it and process it. And so we were going back and forth about which coffee to use, and I haven't had too many beers that are like blonde base or like a saison base. It's usually porters or stouts, and it's usually cold brew or ground coffee. So it was like, oh well, so this beer will be called the unicorn, the same as the beans. And it was the barrel fermented saison, same base, but it's a small batch. It was only 50 liters. But that's pretty interesting. We're pretty excited about that. It picked up like a kind of orange skin contact wine from the skin of the beans, and pretty cool marriage between coffee and saison. I think
a couple of things you've mentioned there that I want to pick up, and I've just brought up their website, commonfolkcoffee.com.au, for people playing at home. A lot of hip hop references in there.
You're right, yeah.
And not obvious hip hop references, which is kind of nice to see. It's not like they're doing Biggie Smalls' Big Espresso. It's there's a De La Soul reference in there and a Next Worries, which is pretty nice. A really lovely website as well. They've got a really fun vibe. Like it's
So they're super cool. They're out in Mornington, and yeah, really really nice people. Kind of young owners that Hannah and I look up to. And so yeah, we're doing a collab with them, and if I can get this website sorted, it'll be hopefully on the weekend. Hopefully on the weekend we'll be close to releasing that beer. We're going to do. It was only 50 bottles, so we're going to do like an online exclusive between 25 will sell from our online store and 25 on theirs.
cool.
And just kind of bypass.
Did you say that bean was developed as a direct result of the work that they've been doing with the producers?
Yeah, the whole company is.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. They're quite inspiring, and so
But what a like direct, tangible like benefit and result
yeah,
your hard work come to. That's amazing. Yeah.
I think so too. I think it's they're doing great things for, like I said, fair trade and giving back to the farmers where it's been a pretty exploited industry for a long time. From what I gather, I mean, I'm no expert, but looking in from the outside, the beans are pretty much stripped away from a lot of people, and the middleman makes a lot of the money. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, like anyone, the coffee is great as well. So check them out. They got a cool little space.
I
think I first encountered them where they did a collaboration with Mornington Peninsula Brewery with a coffee brown ale, and that was like awesome. So that was the first entrance to me anyway. So
it's one of those names that I know from around the coffee world, but I kind of half pay attention, but don't pay heaps of attention. And so yeah, I'm really keen to check them out further now.
Yeah.
Do you know if they're stocked in Melbourne at all anywhere?
I don't know that specifically, but I'd be pretty surprised if they weren't.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They have a pretty good online presence, so I'm sure you can get most of their coffee delivered to Melbourne as well. And they're coming up with brand new releases with hilarious names a lot of the time. The Lizard.
Thinking of blonde beer or pale beer and coffee, someone was talking about that kind of concept online recently, and my mind immediately went to Mountain Goat it was with Seven Seeds, their IPA. They did the Thorny Goat, something like that. Oh, cool. One of them, and that was an IPA on, I think it was cold brew, but that might have been circa 2013, 2014. And it was still one of my favourite beers ever released in Australia, but then the next year they went back to doing a porter or a stout with the coffee beans. And I just remember that when that happened, I felt so let down. Like, you're doing so it was so unique at the time.
But years ago, that what was that festival that they put on at Three Ravens? The coffee,
not uppers and downers.
The local version of that, whatever that was. I can't remember the title of it, but
sorry, Brendan.
Those pale beer, no sleep, no, nothing like that. Yeah, the pale beers were definitely the most interesting and sort of compelling offerings from that festival, as far as I was concerned anyway. So I'm super keen for this one.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's really interesting. It's not a dominant base at all. So there's a lot of room to play. And I think initially the coffee aroma was too aggressive. So we waited it out, so that's been sitting in bottle for about 8 weeks now. But yeah, we're super excited about that. And then, like I was saying before, we've got a little hoppy farmhouse ale that's in little 375 ml like half champagne bottles that we kind of wanted to make an offering that was a bit more accessible to drink. You don't have to feel like you have to pop a 750. Although feel free, as we all are tonight. Yeah.
It's
somewhat indulgent for a Monday night.
Yeah,
for sure. But like this kind of beer in particular, like I don't want just 375 ml of this. I want a good top up afterwards because it's really good.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
The Three Ravens Festival, I pulled up an article on Broadsheet, which I wrote, I realised, to get the name of it, On the Bend, on the Mend.
That's right.
Uh,
Like that.
yeah. Yeah, that was a good time, that one. And that was that same, you talking about, the natural process coffee and the flavours, and that's what that festival was all about. And that was it's a shame that I don't think they brought it back. They brought it back in a different way.
Let's have a word with the young man Brendan about that.
Yeah.
That was, I don't think it was a directive, but I think there was like a keen suggestion to think outside the box with these coffee, like
Yeah,
incorporate.
cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was good.
Do something different, and
Yeah.
I guess that's where the blonde beer comes in, because it's definitely not the first thing to mind when you think of a coffee beer. You naturally gravitate towards the dark malts.
I like that you're selling it on their website as well. That's kind of a fun. Your collaborations seem to be somewhat one-sided sometimes. So
Yeah,
selling it in both makes it, opens it up to a new audience.
yeah, it does. Yeah, and it's nice. They're as excited as we are, which is cool for a company of their caliber. You know that Sam is all about experimentation, and I think he's been kind of waiting to do something a little bit different and outside the box, as
It
opposed to
almost feels like if like for their customer base, seeing that product, you'd go, "What is this? I
yeah,
tried this." Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's someone that probably wouldn't encounter you if not for that.
No, exactly. Yeah, so we're pretty psyched to be collabing with them, and be able to reach a wider audience for such a small wee label like us. And then the Hoppy Farmhouse Ale will kind of follow pretty soon after that, and that was Kvike. We went through open fermentation because we wanted to try and get as many esters as we could, and then that went into barrel with Brett for a couple months, and then we've pulled it out and dry hopped it with Galaxy at like 2 grams per liter, so pretty restrained. And yeah, that'll be like our hoppy kind of summer release. That'll be in 375s.
So whereabouts can people get your beer at the moment?
At the moment, Carwin Cellars, when I drop it off this week, yeah, they only just ordered. So Carwin, Otter's Promise, it's there right now. Hop Shop in Frankston, Grape and Grain, Mr. West.
Wine Republic.
Wine Republic, yeah. Thank you for going and grabbing that. Wine Republic, Northcote, and Windsor, and then we're looking to get in a few more independent retailers. But we'll also be launching an online store, hopefully mid this week, but at least by the end of the week. Which we'll have going throughout all our releases. We'll always sell a portion online, so that people can get direct access if they don't want to go to the bottle shop, or if they're outside of Victoria, because I can't see any of our product going outside Victoria to bottle shops or anything right now, just due to the limitations, and we want to kind of look after our own at the moment.
The website will be, once it's all set up, what's it going to be?
It will be, so I did fix that after.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had or not, so I was leaving it open.
Yeah.
Is it now? Have a look at it.
Yeah, so it will be www.sobremesa, which is SOBREMESA beer.com. And at the moment, it's just up there with a newsletter sign up. I hope it is. I checked it before, but yep.
I just signed up.
Yeah, it'll be there. Yeah, thank you. It'll be there with a little sign up, and then that'll be live later this week, and we'll be able to pretty much deliver anywhere, hopefully, within Australia.
Excellent. Outside of beer, what have you got on for the summertime? Are you working, relaxing, coming out of lockdown?
Yeah, and I guess we'll be enjoying a bit more now that we've had all these restrictions. yeah, we'll be working. I mean, both Hannah and I are working full time while we're doing this, just because we can't receive any revenue yet. We just got to let it grow and see how things go. Want to get to some gigs when they finally open. I think that's something I've missed dearly during COVID, is going and seeing live music. And then the general Christmas thing. Got my sister coming down from Darwin, so we'll hang out and have a bit of family time. What about you?
We're heading to wineries over Christmas.
Nice.
Just before Christmas, we're going to Rutherglen and then King Valley, a couple of days in each. And we just basically looked at that area and picked some nice accommodation and then worked out what was around that. Really looking forward to that. Really keen to see some live music again as well.
I keep getting emails from venues that are starting to spruik some dates. So
well, we can get on the dance floor again, can't we? So
I think
we can.
That's exciting.
Grinding look. You're not allowed to grind, so you'll have to put that one in the back pocket.
Well, the last venue gig I went to that wasn't a festival was, I'm still recovering concussion-wise.
Yeah.
So
your concussion would have been illegal. So that's annoying.
Yeah.
Which gig was that?
That was Comeback Kids' 20th anniversary, so a pretty hardcore punk show.
Nice.
Where the person that elbowed me, I don't know if it was them or the person with them. I didn't quite see because I was too busy getting elbowed in the head. But they had a Temple Brewing t-shirt on. So if anyone out there...
That's a very small cranium that they struck you as well?
Sorry? No, it was not in the temple. It's in the side, right by the ear there.
Yeah.
Still getting headaches from that. So shout out to Temple Brewing for kind of ruining a big chunk of my year.
You won't forget that gig though.
After this year, you're blaming Temple.
Yeah. Well, yeah, part of me is like, I've had a head injury right at the start of COVID. Am I dreaming COVID? Am I going to wake up and be like, oh, right, the world's still normal? Dave, what about you? Now we're here.
Classic standard family Christmas going to be happening. But I did have a couple of questions before we go. Firstly, have you got any existing relationships with vineyards to get grapes from, or is that something you're going to be working on in the future?
Yeah, that'll be something we're working on. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And the last one is Emma Fittick going to be doing all the artwork, or is this just like the vibe of what you think it's going to be?
I think she will be. Yeah, I think she will be. We'll be doing the artwork for, like I was saying earlier, all the beers that we recreate more than once will have an artwork. And so I think she will. She's already drawn another one for us, and we're really happy with it. Just kind of a crazy coincidence how that came around as well. She was selling fine line drawings on Facebook Marketplace to make money during COVID. And we bought some off her and then approached her about doing label artwork, and she drew that up. So we were
that's fantastic, because the labels are like striking on the shelf, like they really stand out. So for a like fine line drawings that's quite minimalistic, it works.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's done a great job, and we've got a close friend of ours, River, who's doing the kind of graphic design component, like putting the labels together after she's given us a drawing.
So who was the artist again? Do they have a presence we can shout out?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Emma Fittick. I'm not sure if this is like a thing that she does normally, but I'll definitely get in touch with her and see if she has some form of Instagram.
You know what? Several creative Emma Fitticks, so that's straight away.
Oh, I can mention it in the intro when I pre-record that. If you get it to me, I don't know, sometime between now and next Monday, probably at this point.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll have a chat to her and see if we can point some business in her direction. Yeah, because I think she's done a fantastic job and kind of took what we thought. We didn't really touch on that, but I'm not sure if you could tell, but it's like a play on words for our daily bread, because this is with the Bible being there. Because this is a beer that I could drink it all day, every day, and it was meant to be there. Our daily Brett, and obviously because we put Brett in it.
Sure. I mean, every other Brett saison or similar beers at the moment are sort of like over 7%, or in that kind of ballpark. But having one like 5.4%, really dry, really like popping on the flavor profile, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, I think now's a pretty good time to wrap up. Casey, we've mentioned where the website is. What's the social media?
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram is both Sobremesa Beer. So yeah, SOBREMESA and then beer. So it'll be the same as the website.
Awesome.
And yeah, thanks so much for having us. We feel pretty honoured and privileged that you guys contacted us, and it's been good to catch up. So yeah, we appreciate that.
You're coming right in our wheelhouse, so you were bound to get a shout out sooner or later.
Dave, people want to find you?
At MelbDave on Twitter, dave@alaoattime.com if you want to send me an email.
And look at AoaTime.com, AoaTime.com for everything else. I've got a story coming up about Zimagy and Broadsheet this week, I think. So check that out for some Hop Nation news. I'm working on a couple of other things, but we're finally recording the Hypothetical Institute about the monoliths. So if you want to find out all the conspiracies and stories behind the mysterious monoliths around the world, we'll have them for you sometime this week. Sorry?
Is it solved?
Is it, Dave?
Well, I guess we've got to tune in to find out, yeah.
Don't blow up our podcast before we record it.
You read when that artist claimed and shared the plans and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, wow. I mean, I've uncovered some other guy that's got a different theory altogether, so
that's the one I want to
stay
follow.
tuned.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone, for joining along, and we'll be back. We should plug the live show. Yes. Which we haven't really planned just because of COVID and everything. But
we have a date, we have a venue.
We've got a date next Monday. If you're in Melbourne, that's Monday the 14th. I should try and get this out well before then. We will be live at the Catfish. There'll be 45 tickets only because of COVID restrictions. So we'll put up it's going to be free. We want to give the Catfish some money. So we're not going to pay us and we'll do over the bar. Just go there, buy beers from Catfish.
Huge too, so that is a sacrifice.
We'll try and get some giveaways and some freebies while we're there as well. This has just been planned on the fly today. It's just we want to do an end of year thing. We're going to have Ian McNally and Nick from the Have a Beer Guest of the Year, Nick Kappa. So they're going to be doing that, and we're going to have Tiff and Lindsay and me and Dave just doing something. We haven't worked out what that is yet, but
it's going to be a good time. Oh yeah, we haven't planned anything, but for sure, good times though.
I mean, yeah. Last year was a great time. There'll be less sharing of lambic from Spanish pour-ons under COVID restrictions, but I'm sure we'll find some fun. Awesome. Thanks so much, Casey. It's been a pleasure, and cheers, everyone.